Hey, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawashi. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone, and a sincere salutation to the Akim pushing his truth and sincerity. All right. Today, I want to speak about the National Day of Mourning, which is what the Native Americans call this day, the fourth Thursday of November. All right. Most Americans, though, call this day Thanksgiving. All right. But according to the Native American Indians, whose biblical name in the Bible is Gad, this is a day of mourning. All right. So I found this little lesson. So like I found this picture. Hopefully you can see. I printed it on my computer. It's a National Day of Mourning. All right. It's a plaque. I found this picture on the internet. It's a plaque, and it exists. It exists. It's on the bottom. It says, erected by the town of Plymouth on behalf of the United American Indians of New England. So this is a plaque that is in the town of Plymouth, Massachusetts. All right, and it was erected by the Native Americans. All right, in New England. All right, so I was looking up, about this holiday and thinking about to do a video on it. But when I found this, I said, I'm gonna do a video on this. All right. So this is the Native Americans, their take on Thanksgiving. Today is actually a national day of mourning for them. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and read this plaque. This plaque is if you can see in the picture, it's on a rock. It's on a rock. All right. It's a plaque, and they put it on a rock out in Plymouth, Massachusetts. So I'm gonna go ahead and read it. All right. It says, since 1970, Native Americans have gathered at noon on Coles Hill in Plymouth to commemorate a national day of mourning on the U.S. Thanksgiving holiday. Many Native Americans do not celebrate the arrival of the Pilgrims and other European settlers. To them, Thanksgiving Day is a reminder of the genocide of millions of their people, the theft of their lands, and relentless assault on their culture. Participants in National Day of Mourning honor Native ancestors and the struggles of Native peoples to survive today. It is a day of remembrance and spiritual connection, as well as a protest of the racism and oppression which Native Americans continue to experience. All right, so that's the Native Americans' take on Thanksgiving. To them, it's a National Day of Mourning. Okay, so what I want to do now is I want to get into the scriptures, man, into the Holy Scriptures, all right, because us being the Blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, we filter everything through the Scriptures. So I got a little lesson right here, okay, and basically I want to go into certain things, okay, and pick this Thanksgiving apart through the Scriptures. All right, first I'm going to start off in the book of Jeremiah 10:2. Thus saith Yahawah, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. All right. So, the scriptures, Yahawah, who the world ignorantly calls God, told us, follow not the ways of the heathen, man. And we know that the Native Americans, being Israelites, did not follow the ways of the Pilgrims, man. The Puritans that came from England, they basically were looking for religious freedom, a place to be able to worship what they wanted to worship. They couldn't worship what they wanted to worship in England, so they had to leave. So they came to the Americas and saw no fences, and they wanted to claim this land. So they came in like how the white man always does, with his nice words, but in reality he just really wanted to be a damn devil and steal land and just use trickery and deceit. All right, so I'm going to read again. It's Jeremiah 10:2. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen. All right. And be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. Right. So the Lord said, follow not the ways of the heathen. So we're not supposed to follow in these traditions and these customs, which are built on lies. They're actually, Thanksgiving is built on rape, robbery, and murder of the Native American Indians. So we're not supposed to follow the way of the heathen. All right. The Lord actually gave us what to follow. And it's all in the Bible, man. All right. This is Deuteronomy 4:1, and these commandments were given to the children of Israel, all right, being the so-called Blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. And you can actually read about our history here in the Bible. The scriptures don't speak about blacks. The scriptures don't speak about Native Americans. The scriptures don't speak about Latinos, man. But we have biblical names, and we know through the Spirit the Lord has given us that we know that we are the children of Israel. But the commandments are in the Bible, man. The Lord gave us commandments, and that's what we follow. The children of Israel follow the Lord's word. This is Deuteronomy 4:1. Now therefore hearken, O Israel, unto the statutes and unto the judgments which I teach you, for to do them, that ye may live and go and possess the land which the Lord power of your fathers giveth you. Right? So the scriptures tell us to hearken, O Israel. Israel being you so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. All right, hearken to the statutes and the judgments, all right, that the Lord gave us. But we didn't hearken, so what happened? The Lord gave us into the hand of our enemies, man, being who? First and foremost, of the so-called white man. And what did he do? He raped, robbed, and murdered us and took away, our inheritance. And that's why you have Khazars that are really from the nation of Esau, and Amalek, which was Esau's grandson. So taking over the land of Israel, right? So we didn't hearken, so, it didn't go good for us. It says here, which I teach you for to do them, that ye may live and go and possess the land which the Lord power of your fathers giveth you. All right? So the Lord told us to do these things so we may go and possess the lands and be prosperous and be successful in our lands, but we didn't. So what happened? The Lord gave us into the hands of our enemies and put all kinds of curses upon us. All right? And with that, I'm going to read the curse that the Lord put on us in the book of Deuteronomy 28. And in this book, in this book, Deuteronomy, this is me personally, when I first read the book of Deuteronomy, it struck me as, things that I was going through in my personal life and things that I saw with my spiritual eye, what the Israelites would be suffering. Me being an Israelite, the tribe of Issachar, I saw this to be true, man. So this book this chapter is like a blessing in disguise, because you really get to know, who we are and what we're going through. Through the Spirit, we see the curses that our people are going through, being straight in captivity, man. This is Deuteronomy 28. Salakia. And 32. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand. So there's no might in the Native Americans' hand. When the pilgrims came, they came with them smooth words, and then they just murdered and killed, the Wampanoag, and then the Pequot Indians, who they didn't give in to the peace treaty that Squanto made with the pilgrims. Squanto being a Paltex Indian, all right? He made a treaty with them, but there was a tribe out there in New England called the Pequot. They didn't believe in that treaty. They knew the devil was the devil, the so-called white man. So there was no might in their hands. This is Deuteronomy 28 and 33. The fruit of thy land and all thy labor shall the nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always. Right. The fruit of thy land and all thy labor shall a nation come and eat it up. And that's who? That was these pilgrims. They came to what? This continent, this place, and they took, they learned how to fish and how to hunt and how to live, off the earth. The Indians taught them that. What did they turn around and do? They turned around and stabbed them in the back, man. All right, so, they took their land and they took their crops, and, basically they were used and abused, man. And thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always. Right, so that's what you see, Native Americans, they got their culture taken from them. They got Americanized, and they've been crushed ever since. That's why they're pushed up on the reservations. All right, that's why they put casinos on their lands, you know what I mean? And then they get taxed by the casinos, man. It's all for gain when it comes to the so-called white man. So these curses, they belong to us for being, rebellious to the Heavenly Father, man. All right? See, but, you're not going to, the scriptures say the simple believe every word. I have that down here, but I actually didn't look it up. It's in the book of Proverbs, but the simple believe every word, man. So, you got Native Americans are actually celebrating this holiday, right? Because the simple believe every word. Plus, the spirit of Yahawashi is not really with them, all right? To be able to open up their eyes to get this truth. This is the book of 1 Chronicles 12 and 8. See, because they are the children of Israel. All right, the Native Americans, you are from the tribe of Gad. All right, Gad is like a troop. I believe it's Gadwad is troop. It means a raiding band. A troop. It means raiding band. All right, and that was the so-called Native Americans, man. They were men of war. They were men of might. They were men that would go to war in Israel. All right, and Gadwad means a troop. That's what they are. They're a raiding band. So they were men of war, and they would just like you see in the movies. They go out there and They got the war paint on their faces, and this is all scriptural, man. They would go and they would win in battle and victory, and then they would what? They would spoil. They would take all the men, they would kill the men and take the women as captives. You know, they would even kill the children sometimes. You know, scriptures. The Lord told Israel to sometimes kill everybody. You know what I mean? But sometimes they would just spoil. Just take all the goods, all the gold, all the silk, all the silver, you know, and things like that. This is 1 Chronicles 12 and 8. It says, and of the Gadites, there separated themselves unto David into the hold to the wilderness men of might, and men of war fit for the battle, that could handle shield and buckler, whose faces were like the faces of lions, and were as swift as roes upon the mountains. Con. All right, so it says men of might. It says they separated themselves unto David into the hold to the wilderness. So they separated themselves with King David into the wilderness, man. Men of might, men war fit for the battle, man. So Native Americans are men of war. They're fit for the battle. They were fit. Our people were fit, man. There was no unhealthy people back then. All right. So I'm just trying to prove that the Native Americans are the children of Gad, the Israelites. All right. It says that could handle shield and buckler. So they could handle shield and they could buckle with the sword, man, like pirates, man. You know, whose faces were like the faces of lions, and were as swift as the roes upon the mountains, man. All right, their faces were like lions, man. So that means, you know, they used to have war paint on their face, man. And not only that, but they look like lions, man, because, you know, so-called Native Americans, you know, the first Native Americans were dark-skinned people. And you know, look at Geronimo and Sitting Bull. They were dark-skinned people. They weren't light-skinned people, and were swift as the roes upon the mountains, so they could run. They were very swift on their feet. All right, I'm gonna continue. I'm gonna jump to 1 Chronicles 5 and Salak 18. The sons of Reuben and the Gadites and half the tribe of Manasseh are valiant men able to bear buckler and sword, and to shoot with bow, and skillful in war. See, they were men, valiant men, able to bear buckler and sword, so they could actually, you know, they could wield a sword, and they were skillful in war. All right, and to shoot with bow, and skillful in war. And we know, man, everybody knows that a bow and arrow is synonymous with what? Native Americans. All right, it says we're 440,703 score that went out to the war. All right, so, you know, Gadites, you know, they're a troop, man. They're a raiding band. All right, but see, the simple belief, every word, and 2/3 of our nation are caught up in the philosophies of this life. Because if you were in the spirit, then you would know your enemy, man. So-called white man. This is Psalms 55 and 21. It says, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. All right, so if you knew your enemy, you knew that the so-called white man, his words are smoother than butter. All right, but war was in his heart, right? So, you know, while he tried to make a peace treaty with one of the so-called Native Americans, all right, of the Wampanoag Nation, the Pequot, they knew that he was about war. All right, it says his words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. All right, and that's talking about the so-called white man. All right. So we don't celebrate this holiday because we know that it's based on rape, robbery, and murder. There's nothing religious. There's nothing holy about it. See, the Bible speaks about holy days. All right, but the so-called white man here in America, they celebrate holidays. There's a difference, man, between a holy day and a holiday. All right, holidays is of man. This is Habakkuk 2 and 12. Woe to him that buildeth the town with blood, and establish a city by iniquity. Right, because, you know, they raped, robbed, and murdered the Native Americans, and they took away their land, and they built a city upon it. And that city is what? Is United States, man. All the 50 states have tribes. The tribes were up here. You know what I'm saying? We know the Native Americans were here. We know that the Latinos were here. Issachar, you know, they were up here from the Southwest. You know what I mean? And, the so-called Negroes, they came also to this land to serve slavery. So we're all the children of slavery, man. All right, so woe to him that buildeth the town with blood and established a city by iniquity. And that's who? That's the so-called white man. He established a city by what? Mass murdering the people on that land. So this is Amos. Let me jump to the book of Amos. All right, so this is what we have to speak against, man. We have to speak against these atrocities, man. This folly, these days. This is Amos 5:21. I despise your feast days, and I will not smell in your solemn assemblies. This is Yahawah speaking, man. The Lord hates feast days and will not smell in your solemn assemblies, man. The Lord doesn't like these feast days. If they're not according to his high holy days, then he doesn't regard them. Though ye offer me burnt offerings and your meat offerings, I will not accept them. Neither will I regard the peace offerings of your fat beasts. Right. So the Lord's not going to regard the peace offerings of your fat beasts. Although you offer these things and you pray to white Jesus, because we know the true name of the Father, the Father is Yahawah and the Son is Yahawashi. You pray to the wrong power, man. You pray to Jesus Christ, which is the God of the so-called white man. All right. Though ye offer me burnt offerings and your meat offerings, I will not accept them. Neither will I regard the peace offerings of your fat beasts. All right. So the Lord's not going to hear your prayers when you pray over your pork. All right. That's a fat beast. When you pray over your turkey, that's a fat beast. When you pray over your whatever you sacrifice, your deer, whatever you like to do, the Lord's not going to hear your prayers, man. Take thou away from me noise of thy songs, for I will not hear the melody of thy viols. Right, because people, they play that holiday music, man. The Lord, he's not into any of that, man. The Lord's into what? His people celebrating his high holy days and the laws, judgments, statutes, and commandments. But let judgment run down as waters and righteousness as a mighty stream. Right, so, all you who are celebrating that, are into this folly and are into the wickedness of this society, man. The judgment is going to be ran down like waters, man. And righteousness as a mighty stream. All right. My last scripture is in the book of Proverbs. So let me find it. It's 3:31. Right. So we don't celebrate this, man. We don't want to be part of the world. It's not a big thing, man. We know that there's many gods and there's many celebrations, but we know there's Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawashi, who's a true God, the true power of the Hebrew Israelites. This is Proverbs 3:31. It says, envy thou not the oppressor and choose none of his ways. So envy not the so-called white man and choose none of his holidays, man.